Okay, so now let's talk about the use or application of line graphs. Line graphs are used to show the correlations between variables on interval scales and to make comparisons between the variables. So again, some important vocabulary to pay attention to. When writing about line graphs, make sure to use the adjective line. Again, here's a different way from the bar graphs to indicate this idea, to show, very standard. The word correlation, very important. Co, this prefix of course means together, and relation referring to relationships. Again, a very useful word for a paragraph that's containing line graphs. It shows that you understand the use of line graphs, not just a simple way to write about them. And then, of course, the word variables is very useful, not only for IELTS, but for university as well. Variables, a simple explanation, if we're talking about math, a variable is something like x or y. So, for example, x plus 2 equals y minus 3. The variables in this case are x and y. The reason is because x can be changed to various different numbers and y can as well. Variables is similar to the word changeables, or can be changed. So when we're talking about graphs, of course, x often refers to the x-axis, which is the horizontal axis, and y refers to the vertical axis information. Compared to bar graphs, line graphs are a little bit different because both the x and the y-axis have interval scales, and we'll see an example of that now. So let's imagine that we have a line graph which is describing running speed. And here we have our y-axis, here we have our x-axis. Now, of course, when we're dealing with speed, we have two variables. The variables to understand speed are time and, of course, distance. So if we're talking about running, let's say something like a marathon, we have 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, so our time is being measured in hours. Again, an interval scale, there's equal distances, 60 minutes, 60 minutes, 60 minutes, 60 minutes. And then we have distance, let's say 10, 20, 30, and 40 kilometers. So now we need our lines. Let's say we have a few different types of runners. Let's say that runner 1, here we'll have our legend. Runner 1 is a solid line. Let's say that runner 2 is a segmented line. Runner 3 is a dotted line. So, just some imaginary lines here. Let's say that our first runner is something like this. Our second runner is something like this. And our third runner is something like this. So again, in this case, we can look at each line individually. For example, if we look at the solid line, we can see that this runner was able to run 10 kilometers at 2 hours. So we're comparing the two variables of time and distance to this runner. In addition, on the IELTS, line graphs in most cases have multiple lines. You can make comparisons between the lines. So we can say that according to this line graph, runner 2 was faster in the beginning of the run. However, runner 1 increased their speed after 20 kilometers. So again, remembering those compare and contrast words and using those to make comparisons between the various lines. Okay, next we're going to look at pie charts, and we'll have a short description of what pie charts are used for, and of course I will include some important and useful vocabulary in that explanation that you can use when you're writing about pie charts.